Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and y'all thought we might have been done with Drake this year, cause it's Billboard BREAKDOwn. I don't remember. You know, there is a part of me that finds it kind of telling that I completely forgot Drake was going to see a modest album bomb with the deluxe tracks marketed as Scary Hours 3 that were tacked onto For All the Dogs. It had an online moment, reportedly with the wordplay being stronger and nastier. We'll get to that. More of what the diehard fans wanted. Very telling. Now granted, said tracks, they don't have the same pop appeal, so they're not going to have the same chart impact, but it's at least a story this week, and certainly a better one than in our top 10, where Lovin' On Me by Jack Harlow went to number 1. Let's make this abundantly clear. It got that top spot courtesy of streaming, an aggressive radio push, and the Hot 100 top position being weaker than ever. And it's not going to hold that spot with the glut of holiday music that is surging up the charts right now. But before we get to all that, it did dethrone Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift at number 2. Although with the streaming drop-off and the radio now slipping into freefall, that might have been inevitable. Now what's interesting is that Paint the Town Red by Doja Cat would stand to make up some ground at number 3. Its streaming is also falling off, but the radio isn't quite dropping as quickly, and that's a feasible margin. Okay, but let's be real. What's really going to make the charge is All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey, already up huge to number 4 as the streaming is back in earnest. It's probably going to go to number 1 next week. We all just know that. Now it's Strand Snooze by SZA at number 5, where the margins are only getting more pronounced as the radio dumps that song too. And that takes us to I Remember Everything by Zach Bryan and Casey Musgraves at number 6, where it's predominantly here based on streaming, but it actually is starting to get a little bit of radio traction. Too little, too late, unfortunately. The worst kind of competition is ahead. Now, where things get interesting on that note for me is Greedy by Tate McRae up to number 7. With tangible pop radio momentum and okay streaming, and with the album dropping in December, she could be making a play here or hope to ride out the next month to clinch the top spot in January, but I think timing is going to be everything with this one. I do think the odds are against her. Hell, on that note, Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree by Brenda Lee made a big return to number 8. Knocking back Is It Over Now by Taylor Swift down to number 9, although the streaming losses also probably had a lot to do with that too. And then we got a new top 10 entry, and one I'm actually quite happy to see here, even if it's not going to last. Water by Tyla at number 10. I mean, it's a good R&B song. The radio loves it. Streaming's starting to get on board. I got no idea if it's got a chance against the holiday glut, but we can hope. Right? Now this takes us naturally to our losers and dropouts, aka everything getting forced out by the combination of the Drake mini album bomb and the holidays. In the latter category, we got the natural and expected exits for songs like Daylight by David Kushner, Barbie World by Ice Spice, Nicki Minaj, and Aqua, 7 by Jungkook and Lotto, and Single Soon by Selena Gomez. But we actually have a lot more losers here, nearly a third of the Hot 100. So let's start off with the losses off the debuts, like Houdini by Dua Lipa at 33. She also saw a loss for Dance the Night down to 31, and Northern Attitude by Noah Khan and Hosier to 79. Then let's go to our next few gains that were cut short, like White Horse by Chris Stapleton, Muscle back to 27, Everything I Love by Morgan Wallen at 69, and Too Much by Kid Laroi, Jungkook, and Central C at 93. Jungkook also saw Standing Next to You fall down to 73. Then we got a couple more continued losers where, let's be real, Taylor Swift saw the brunt of it. Now That We Don't Talk at 56, Slut at 76, Say Don't Go at 81, and Style at 91. But Bad Bunny also saw a few album bomb hits with Monaco down to 38 and Perro Negro with Fight at 82. And because Olivia Rodrigo can't get much luck, Get Him Back fell down to 75. Then we got a few Travis Scott losers, Meltdown with Drake's at 94 and I Know at 54. But now, the rest. Bongos by Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion at 97, La La by Mike Towers at 89, Richmond North of Richmond by Oliver Anthony at 85, Great Gatsby by Rod Wave at 65, Strangers by Kenya Grace at 64, 500 Pounds by Lil Tecca at 62, and Wild Ones by Jesse Murph and Jelly Roll at 60. Finally, On My Mama by Victoria Monet hit 59, Harley Quinn by Fuerza Regida and Marshmello hit 57, Kill Bill by SZA hit 49, joins up the longtime hits getting nudged out like Flowers by Miley Cyrus at 47, and What It Is Block Boy by Doechii and Kodak Black at 45, My Love, Mine All Mine by Mitski at 44, I'm frankly stunned she lasted this long, and Fast Car by Luke Combs getting pushed all the way out of the top 10 down to 18. So okay, what's replacing all of them? Well, naturally holiday music, so in our returns, let's just rattle through all those that came back right into the top 50. Like It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year by Andy Williams at 28, Let It Snow by Dean Martin at 35, Feliz Navidad by Jose Feliciano at 39, Underneath the Tree by Kelly Clarkson at 42, The Christmas Song by Nat King Cole at 43, Sleigh Ride by the Ronettes at 46, and Santa Tell Me by Ariana Grande at 48. Kind of a shame they're taking up this much Oxygen, as well as Calling For You by Drake featuring 21 Savage sneaking back at 99, because I think the much more interesting story is the abrupt return for Surround Sound by JID featuring 21 Savage and Baby Tate thanks to going viral on TikTok. I mean, they really could have picked a better time of year to attempt a resurgence, but given how it is one of the best rap songs of last year, I'm not about to complain that much. Now in our gains, well, okay, outside of the top 10, we got the expected jumps for Jingle Bell Rock by Bobby Helms at 12, Last Christmas by Wham at 13, and A Holly Jolly Christmas by Burl Ives at 16, but I'm frankly more interested in the bounce for Can't Catch Me Now by Olivia Rodrigo up to 63. Again, I don't have a lot of faith that it's going to stick around outside of the Hunger Games movie having its run, but it is a really solid song. I'm just going to enjoy it while it's here. And again, not for nothing, we're in minor album bomb territory for Drake with the 6 new songs he charted. So outside of the top 40 and the best or the worst, Wick Man at 71, very cute, unimpressive Pusha T disses there. Stories About My Brother at 58, probably the closest to being good of the new Drake songs with the Joe Budden shot, some clever wordplay, and a really nice beat from Conductor Williams, and Red Button is at 51. But alright, that gives us a rather interesting list of new arrivals, and it's all the more strange because we're starting with number 90. I swear, I really wanted to make a rap album, but this is literally The Way the Wind Blew Me this time by Andre 3000. Okay, let's be real. The only reason a song like this could ever chart is because it's credited to Andre 3000, and just enough people were curious about this being his first solo output, only to be greeted with a 12-minute fluttery ambient instrumental piece with ghostly percussion, chimes, and where the first flute melody doesn't slip in until nearly the 3-minute mark. It is unquestionably one of the strangest pieces to probably ever chart on the Hot 100, and one frankly I don't see sparking any sort of trend, even in the context of the brief era when new age music can occasionally scrap out a week or two on the charts that happened decades ago. But as I said in my review of the album, this is one of my favorites from the project. I love how the tentative flute work is trying to feel out its place in the mix, which creates both this blur of wonderment but also melancholy, steps that are taken into a strange new world that Andre 3000 is still trying to understand, and yet there's a pang of regrets for not doing what his audience wanted, even if I think the song kind of loses its way by the very end with some of the quirkier misadventures. Hey, that happens. So yeah, it's not something I'm going to revisit all that often, but again, if I'm on my ambient bullshit, I would not be averse to listening to this. It's very good, if not great, and outside of the context of Three Stacks' run with Outkast, I think it deserves to be properly considered. Check it out. Number 84, Where the Wild Things Are by Luke Combs.
When the sky goes dark, out where the wild things are.
I am so happy that there's someone working with Luke Combs that is convincing him to choose really good, if not great, singles, to the point I'm legit shocked that he's finally putting some of the muscle behind one of the best songs on his new album that I never thought would be pushed. That warm, driving groove, that anthemic hook, how organic it all sounds, the fact that it is damn near a story song that has Luke Combs' brother buying a motorcycle and taking off for California, where even Luke Combs himself goes out to visit and party with him a little little bit. But where the song gets interesting and takes a real leap in my point of view is the final section, because Luke Combs recognizes that he enjoys it, but he can't live that kind of life, and he heads back east to his family, and his brother stays out there and dies in a motorcycle accident. And while it could have all been spun as a tragic parable, that's not how the song is framed. There's grief, but also an acknowledgement that, hey, he chased his dreams. He found many of them, and if that's how it's all going to end for him, well, it's kind of hard to fault a life that was lived exactly how he wanted, which is why the song still has some of that aspirational fervor, and it works. Hell, on Doing This, Luke Combs made it clear that while his own path is a little safer and different, he'd probably take many of the same risks. So yeah, easily one of the best songs on the album, and while it's got a real uphill battle to become a proper hit, please, let's make this happen. Excellent song. If you haven't heard it, check it out. Number 52, The Shoe Fits by Drake.
Can't rap like that same old guy. It's cause I don't know how anymore. I don't know how. Yeah.
Let me start by saying I mostly like the production. Muted soul sample, the spare percussion, the fragmented backing vocal, it is smooth as all hell. Shame it's at a backdrop to Drake, perhaps not at his worst, but likely his least charming. Mostly because this is industrial grade concern trolling. It starts off on the hook clapping back at those who want him to go back to his old sound and his old raps, where he disingenuously says he doesn't know how anymore, likely mocking that audience because he is grown and they haven't. And the entire song from there is an extended long-form riff on what he presumes that audience is. And he starts with the women, who are so quick to not be grounded and follow their own independent woman plans when they can instead date wealthy but insecure guys who'll just treat him badly, or they'll just fuck around on OnlyFans because he doesn't acknowledge sex work as work, and as if Drake's veneer of faux class isn't so obviously paper thin and that he hasn't behaved just as badly with as much pettiness. The condescension here is rancid. Not to worry though, he's also going at the insecure guys as much here, which is moderately more tolerable until you realize that most of this is just punching down at dudes who do not have the money he does in order to act flagrant, especially when the girl in the story moved on to fuck James Harden, which if you watched any Clippers game recently, it's probably about the best performance that Harden has delivered recently. Although scheming is an issue with that team, we don't have time to get into the NBA. And look, I'm not going to deny that Drake can craft a story, but when you recognize that despite the hundreds of millions of dollars, Drake is just as petty and insecure as everyone involved here, it's just really obnoxious. It's way less classy than he thinks he's being, and it doesn't match the production. In other words, it's bad. Next. Number 34, Exes by Tate McRae. Alright, let's take a break from Drake for Tate McRae's next single to get pushed. And you know, after Greedy basically felt like lifting pages from Nelly Furtado's Timbaland era in a lot of the groove for a deliberate mid-2000s throwback, I was at least intrigued for where it would go, only to get a slice of trap pop that Camila Cabello could have dropped in 2018. Come on! Seriously, the watery, minimalist melody, the whirring, cheap-sounding trap snares and hi-hats, how Tate McRae is basically submerged in vocal effects in order to try to make a capricious kiss-off song remotely convincing coming from her by draining any sense of emotion from her delivery. And yep, I'm still not buying it. More importantly, if you're still keeping his jewelry and his number, I think that might put a hole in any love him or leave him sentiment if you just left all the doors open for him to come back. Just sounds so cheap and dated. Where Tate McRae said she threw this together as a Hail Mary in 2 hours, and I absolutely believe that. I just wish artists recognize that's not exactly a good thing, because I don't think this is good at all either. Next. Number 26, Evil Ways by Drake featuring J. Cole.
As you can see the gaze, to find your way up to the top, the shit gon' be a maze. Volkswagen shit, the way I'm running Beatles plays.
So I'll say it. I don't think it does Drake or J. Cole any favors to have another collab so early, even if they're now gonna tour together. I don't love first-person shooter by any means, but it at least felt a little bit special compared to this, where the trade-off of bars over the Family Circle sample is just not quite as tight as it should be, especially when it's all about Drake being on his evil ways, with J. Cole being that stern moral force, and I'm sorry, I can't take either assertion remotely seriously. Come on. Now, part of this is how how weirdly labored J. Cole is in connecting all his punchlines together, and Drake still being a petty asshole, taking pot shots at Pharrell because of the Pusha T connection, and then implying that he's gonna hook up with Rosalia. Charming. Now again, I don't mind the warbling sample flip and the crisp percussion, but again, it feels like something that's trying to recapture the big spotlight and attention after first-person shooter, and it doesn't feel as special. Just okay, I guess. And finally, number 11, You Broke My Heart by Drake.
Voice knows bag, plenty hotties. Can't just talk to me like anybody. Can't just talk to me like anybody. Man, you bitches know that I'm a somebody. And little baby bad, she got a John body.
So initially I was kind of surprised that this was the song that got the top spot of the new entries. The last track on the EP, not Drake working with J. Cole. I mean, it's not like the production is remotely better. The soul sample feels really flimsy off the brittle percussion, and Drake's crooning does not blend as well as it should. The vocal mixing is kind of iffy, but when you look at the bars, it starts feeling like a complete refutation of all the attempts at maturity that Drake was trying to sell you before. Why get the gun yourself when you brag multiple times on the tape that you could have Chubbs do it? If you represent all the down bad sad boys, why do you spend so much time dunking on them for not having as much money as you do? And if this girl is not worth your time when you only dated her 4 months, and I'm not gonna judge the length of the relationship, but come on, Drake, you should know better by now. Why be so willing to air all this shit out when you were putting girls like her on blast for not having maturity? And last time I checked, I don't think she said anything. But no, that's not why this blew up as much as it did. It comes down to that bridge where he goes for a big crowd chant of "fuck my ex," and because of the autotune, a lot of folks misheard it as "fuck my ass." It became a cheap Twitter meme because hip-hop Twitter always lives down to everyone's expectations. And if you're gonna say, look, this is the moment where you can just cut loose and be honest and be real, I might be willing to buy that, if not for the rest of the EP, where there's little to no self-awareness and just comes across as petty, defensive, and empty. Just with better production this time around. Not the worst song on the album, but it's not good, and given how much positive hype this EP was getting, I was expecting a lot more. So yeah, that was our week. You know, I'm more annoyed about this than I really should be, and as a result, Drake is getting both bottom spots, with The Shoe Fits as the worst and You Broke My Heart as a dishonorable mention. Best of the week, easily with Luke Combs, Where the Wild Things Are. With honorable mention, yeah, I gotta go for it. It's sliding to Andre 3000's I Swear I Really Wanted to Make a Rap Album, etc. Next week, we got a few weeks of holiday dominance to come before Tate McRae and possibly Nicki Minaj throw that all into chaos with big albums. Stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.